the Rangers' 2024 playoff hopes are dead. The hopes for a winning record this year are also dead. But on Sunday, in their final home game of the season, the Rangers showed that even though 2024 has been a disaster, maybe 2025 won't be.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Before we get into the walk-off win from the Rangers on Sunday, a good start from Jacob deGrom, a less good start from Kumar Rocker, and Max Scherzer's season being over, and possibly his tenure with the Texas Rangers. This episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. Now, the Rangers finished off their home stand, their home season, the way that they started it, with a walk-off win. And not just any walk-off win, the biggest comeback win that the Texas Rangers have had all season. Down 5-0 after 5.5 innings, heading into the bottom of the 6th inning, with Brian Wu just absolutely cruising against this team. The Rangers rattle off 4 runs, including a majestic 3-run shot by rookie Wyatt Langford. They then get a game-tying home run by Leody Taveras, another great offensive day for him. And then, in the bottom of the 9th inning, a walk-off hit, the first walk-off hit somehow of his Texas Rangers tenure by Marcus Semien to win 6-5, making it that much harder for the Seattle Mariners to get back into the playoff race, or just jump into the playoff race in general. Despite the Astros losing earlier because, say it with me again, their bullpen blew another game to an inferior opponent. The Mariners could have been 4 games away from the Houston Astros in the standings with a 3-game set coming up against them, but it's looking like almost assuredly the Astros will be back to however many back AL West champs again this year. But for the Rangers, even though this win doesn't mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things, just having a final home game, final home stand with some reason for excitement, some reason for joy, especially when literally the day before the Rangers got the news that Max Scherzer will be out for the season. Granted, he's only missing 2 more starts, and in the grand scheme of things, that's not going to make a huge difference. But getting a win like this, getting moments like this from the rookie Wyatt Langford, who's going to be around for a while, getting just a great offensive day from Leody Taveras, a 3-hit day, including scoring 3 runs, as well as being the walk-off winning run with that single with 2 outs in the 9th inning, and then stealing second base on the Mariners closer, Andres Munoz, to be able to be in scoring position for, of course, the walk-off hit by Marcus Semien. Just feeling good about these guys heading into the offseason when there hasn't been a whole lot great to feel great about this whole season. I mean, but Wyatt Langford is putting an exclamation mark on the end of his rookie seasons and maybe working his way back into the Rookie of the Year conversation. I think it's a little late for him to get there to even be a finalist, but with the final month that he's putting up, it has been just absolutely phenomenal. In 20 games so far in the month of September, he is hitting .316 with a .395 on base and slugging .605. A 1,001 OPS for this month with 5 homers, which is pretty by far the most he's had in a month his rookie year. The next closest is the 3 home runs he had in the month of June when he was the AL Rookie of the Month for that month, when he hit over 300 with an .894 OPS for that month. But he's got 5 home runs this month, and he's still got 6 more games left. And overall, it has been A very impressive rookie season for Wyatt Langford at such a young age. I mean, right now, a 3.3 baseball reference WAR season. He is closing in on Josh Smith and, heck, even Marcus Semien. He might end up with the second highest baseball reference WAR from any Rangers player this season. I don't think that he is going to pass Corey Seager at 5.1 in the next 6 games, unless he goes, has like 6 straight multi-homer games. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen, but still a very, very good capper to a good rookie season and putting himself in a position to where next year he might just be the everyday center fielder. He might just be a 4-5 win player this year. And even though it has been an overall not ideal rookie season for Wyatt, I mean, still being an above, he has pretty much sealed that he is going to be an above league average hitter, a 108 OPS plus this season, unless he just has an awful last 6 games of the year. I don't see that happening particularly, especially against the 6 games worth of pitchers that he's going to face in the A's and the Angels. Not exactly, the 2011 Phillies rotation that he's going to be facing off against, but the steps that he's taken have been very encouraging. The steps that they've gotten forward from Josh Smith having a really good season, getting Marcus Semien to bounce back offensively towards the end of this year, and heck, I mean, Leody Taveras, even though I don't think he's going to be an everyday starting center fielder next year, you want him to be a productive player. He's still going to be on the roster, and you would like him to be good as opposed to what he has been this year, which has been decidedly ungood for the most part. But having him bounce back, I mean, the last 15 games for Leody, it's not just this game. The last 15, he's hitting .262 with a .354 on base percentage and a .500 slugging percentage. 3 home runs of his 12 on the season have been in the last 15 games, including 2 of those in the last 7. In the last 7 games, he's hitting over 300, a .320 batting average, and a .370 on base with a .560 slugging percentage. So just seeing this hot streak from Leody Taveras, I mean, he's always been a very, very streaky player, but seeing him have one of those good streaks on the end of the year kind of reminds you, okay, he's not as bad as he has been all year. As well as Jonah Heim with the multi-hit game, he has had as bad a year as Leody's had offensively. Jonah Heim has had an even worse one. I mean, a .590 OPS as we stand here heading into the final week of the season for the Rangers. Seeing him get a multi-hit game, I mean, it's not just this game for Jonah Heim. I mean, his at-bats as of late have been much, much better. The swings that he's been taking have been much better, even though the overall numbers, if you look in the splits of the last 7 games, he's still slugging under 300 in the last 7 games, but the swings that he is taking have been more productive. They have been better. They have been leading to better outcomes, and catcher offense is always such an iffy thing. I mean, even the guy who I thought was going to be by far the best catcher in baseball this year, Adley Rutschman, has not been, the best offensive player in baseball. I mean, it goes to show you how rare guys like Buster Posey are, catchers who can catch every day and have consistently good offense. Those guys are absolute unicorns. And even though I'm very happy that Jonah Heim had his all-star season last year, I wasn't exactly sure how sustainable that kind of success would be. But the Rangers are going to need him to get back to closer to what he was last year as opposed to what he was this year. I mean, just league average hitter would be fine enough for this offense next year, hopefully, with some bounce backs from basically everyone across the board. They're going to need bounce backs from outside of Corey Seager. I mean, Marcus Semien has had a down year. He's still flirting with being a league average hitter. The Rangers really would like to have that OPS north of 700 at the end of the season, the OPS plus north of 100. I'm still a believer that Marcus Semien this year has been, I'm pretty sure, playing through, I mean, he's always playing through something. When you play 160 plus games every single year, you're always playing through something, but I feel like there's been just a little bit more on Marcus, and I think just getting an actual healthy offseason for the vast majority of these guys, where they're not spending the whole winter rehabbing and they don't have a month less of time off of playing baseball like they did last year, hoping that can lead to a much, much better season in 2025 than what they've seen so far in 2024, and just leaving this year very, very much in the past, and hopefully bouncing back in a great way for pretty much everyone on this roster. But a big reason why they might be much, much better in 2025 is the tandem twosome, the tantalizing twosome at the top of their rotation in Kumar Rocker, and Jacob deGrom, who looked, well, a bit of a mixed bag in their starts at home this year. This episode of Locked On Rangers is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. It's time to explore those U.S. cities that you've always secretly wanted to learn more about. With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival's city during the postseason. Maybe it's time to test your baseball competition's stadium cuisine. Luckily on you, Booking.com can find you the stadium stay that is right for you. With Booking.com's wide variety of choices across the U.S., you can go incognito to all your baseball rival city. Booking.com delivers exactly the right U.S. stay for you. Booking.com can help you find a stay that's so close to your home team or rival stadium. No matter what team you're rooting for this postseason, Booking.com can make you a fan of any U.S. city. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your baseball rivals. Booking.com. Booking.yeah. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. You can look at the baseball odds right now. They've got odds for Rookie of the Year in both leagues right now. Both pitchers. It'd be very odd to see two pitchers win AL Rookie of the Year. Right now, Luis Gil of the New York Yankees, the favorite in the American League Rookie of the Year race at -230. Paul Skeens, the favorite in the National League at -145. A couple of pitchers having absolutely fantastic seasons. I mean, just going to be a very, very heated race, especially if Wyatt Langford continues his hot stretch towards the end of the season. He might just pass Mason Miller or Wilyer Abreu for the 4th or 5th place odds and might end up making a close finish. But check out all the odds and head over to FanDuel.com. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On to tomorrow's show, I'll be talking hopefully with Jason Burke, former Locked On A's host, about this final series in the Coliseum. The Rangers take on the Oakland A's, 8:40 p.m. Central Time. First pitch, Nathan Eovaldi versus Mitch Spence, and you can catch every pitch of the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, the Rangers this last weekend were supposed to again have a trio of former Mets or former almost Mets going in Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of Kumar Rocker, Jacob deGrom, and not Mitch. I was about to say Mitch Spence again. No, not Mitch Spence. He's not a former Max Scherzer, the actual former Met. Now, I'll talk more about Max Scherzer in the third segment, but I wanted to get into Kumar Rocker's home MLB debut, because I was there in person for that start. Unfortunately, I had to leave a little bit early, feeling under the weather. I'm still, unfortunately, feeling under the weather, which is why I didn't have a show on Friday talking about that start. But Rocker, wasn't nearly as impressive in that start as he was in his first MLB start against the Mariners. Now, I think that the Mariners offense right now is a lot hotter and a lot better than the Blue Jays offense, but they, for whatever reason, could see Kumar Rocker a whole lot better than what the Seattle Mariners were able to see in his MLB debut. Just 3 innings for Rocker, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts, just the 1 earned run, 1 unearned run, and a couple of hits, no home runs, which is an improvement from his last start out there. There was a little bit of concern on my part with the velocity for Rocker being down from where it was in his first start, and where it was in his first MLB start was down from where it was in AAA, down all the way to 95.4 miles an hour averaging on his four-seam fastball. The slider was down to 94.3 miles an hour. That's down 0.6 miles an hour from his season average, the sinker, and 0.7 for his four-seamer. They also did qualify 1 pitch as a curveball, so finally StatCast is learning a little bit that Rocker has a curveball, not a slider. I don't know if that will end up changing later on. But it's down, it's only down 0.6 miles an hour, 0.7 miles an hour from his MLB stuff, but what he was doing, in the minors, he was throwing just a whole lot harder. just significantly harder, including his first AAA start, the first time that we really had StatCast on Kumar Rocker's stuff. I mean, he was averaging 97.9 miles an hour with the four-seam fastball and 97.7 miles an hour with the sinker. Granted, that was only 67 pitches. He only threw that four-seamer 24 times and the sinker 12 times. So maybe it's just a case of him being a little fatigued. I'm not overall too worried. The results were a little frustrating. I don't know that he deserved necessarily 4 walks in that one. The command wasn't ideal, but whatever the Blue Jays were seeing, they were seeing him very, very well. The strikeout stuff was not, the curveball didn't work nearly as well against the Blue Jays for whatever reason as it did against the Mariners. It was incredibly good against those Mariners, and I'm surprised that it wasn't as good against a more right-handed heavy typically line up in the Blue Jays than the more balanced in terms of handedness wise lineup of the Mariners. But still, an overall not a bad line. Was able to avoid giving up a home run to Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the only pitcher who faced him who was able to avoid giving up a home run to him, including a couple of just massive shots by Vladito, someone who I think the Rangers might take a look at if they get their change back up to the spot where I hope it would be, because Nathaniel Lowe and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. are going to be free agents at the same time, which will be, I believe, after next season. They're going to be free agents. So something the Rangers might want to look into, because it seems like Vladito is back to being the behemoth that he was when he finished second at MVP voting to, of course, Shohei Ohtani, the 1 year where he had his career year. I mean, he's having an incredible season. But Rocker, I'm not overall too worried about this. If the velocity is down again on Thursday in Oakland, then maybe I'll be a little bit more worried. But honestly, I'm a little more frustrated that he wasn't as economical with his pitch count. He was supposed to be up to somewhere between the 70 to 80 pitch mark. He was right around the 70 pitch mark at 3 innings. So 3 innings was all we got from Kumar Rocker. 71 pitches for him. Still got some swings and misses. Got some more swings and misses on the sinker, which I think is a really darn good pitch. A 50% whiff rate on that. Got also 5 called strikes on the sinker, so 8 combined swings and misses and called strikes with that pitch. 9 combined swings and misses plus called strikes on the what is labeled as the slider, and then 7 on the four-seam fastball. Overall, not a great day for Rocker, but still a decent outing for him and something to build on. And he will have one more MLB start this season, and the next year almost assuredly start the year in the rotation, as will Jacob deGrom, who looked a little bit better than Rocker in this start. His velocity was back up to about where we were expecting, with the four-seamer now averaging on the season 97.4 miles an hour. Still down from where it was last year and the year before and the year before that. But honestly, I'm not too worried about Jacob deGrom's velocity as long as he's able to hit that triple digits when he needs to. If he's sitting, 97 as opposed to 99, if that slider could sit, 88, 89 as opposed to 90, 91 that it's been, I don't know, but I think I'm not a doctor and I'm not looking at the, internal metrics on his elbow after every single start, but I can't help but think that might be a little bit easier on the elbow for Mr. Jacob deGrom, who looked very much like himself in his most recent start, his home debut. Seeing him there in the Pagel jersey, the same jersey that he was injured in, or made his last start with the Rangers while wearing that jersey, give me a little bit of the heebie-jeebies, but seeing him look basically just like the exact same version of himself that we have seen be dominant, be the best freaking pitcher in baseball, just made me feel that much better about what next season is going to look like, what he is going to look like next season. I mean, averaging 97.6 miles an hour with the fastball, 90.5 miles an hour with the slider, threw in a couple of changeups, got 2 swings and misses on the 3 swings that he got on the changeup, was able to throw the curveball a few times as well. Still down there at 58 pitches. Could have been a little more economical with his pitch count. Did only give up the 1 run in 3 innings, but got 5 strikeouts. And of course, the 1 run coming on a home run by Josh freaking Rojas, the number 9 hitter, because sure, why not? But overall, deGrom looked like himself, looked like the ace that the Rangers are paying him to be, and hoping that he very much can be. Next year, he is going to be a little bit more, have a little bit longer leash in his next start, hoping to go around 75 pitches. He was in around 60 pitches was his limit for his first start, around 60 pitches again for his start on Friday, and then in what will be his final start of the season, almost assuredly on Friday in Anaheim, he is going to be around the 75 pitch mark. So maybe we can see him go 4 or 5 innings. Maybe he can be, extremely economical and go 6. I don't think they let him go 6, even if he is, super economical with his pitch count. But just, again, seeing him out there, seeing, the tantalizing greatness, is seeing, what he can do when he is at the top of his game is just an absolute delight, no matter how often he's pitching, no matter how many frustrations we all have with him not being on the mound out there more, not being able to throw, 100 pitches, not going every 5th day for the entirety of this season. That's just kind of the nature of pitchers, especially ones as great as this, that put so much effort on their elbow and, kinetic change and the whole thing. You take what you can get. And when he's out there, there's not much point in just moaning and complaining about how often he's not out there. Just sit down, shut up, and enjoy some greatness from Jacob deGrom, which we'll be able to do one more time this season. But something we won't be able to do no more times this season is watching Max Scherzer in a Texas Rangers uniform. And we might not get any more starts from Max Scherzer in a Texas Rangers uniform. We'll talk about that and what it means for this Rangers rotation for the final week of the season right after this word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the easiest way to get in on the action on sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my pick hits, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. PrizePicks also invented the Flex Play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus because it is guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. Now, the Rangers got some bad news on Saturday with Max Scherzer being scratched and then eventually put on the IL with a hamstring strain. This is a different injury than the what feels like 17 injuries that Scherzer has been dealing with this year, but it officially ends his season in Texas, his second season, first full season in Texas for the 2-time World Series champ, and it ends with 9 starts, which I did not think that he made more starts this year than he did last year for the Rangers, even though he only came to the Rangers in the second half of the season. But 8 starts for him in 2023 in the regular season, 9 starts for him in 2024 in the regular season, a 3.95 ERA, 43 and a third innings. So not only more starts, but fewer innings, 40 strikeouts. Not the best year for Max Scherzer, and he'll tell you that himself. He, I'm sure, is no doubt incredibly frustrated. He worked very, very hard to come back, only for that one start in Seattle, and unfortunately, it was not the best start for him, and not the best, year for him. And I think this ends his tenure in Texas. I don't see him coming back. He is a free agent at the end of this year. I don't see him commanding the $43 million average annual value salary that he signed last time he was a free agent, that he got with the Mets as heading into his age 37 season. It's going to be hard to give a 40-year-old an average of $40 million or more in his offseason deal. It's hard to imagine him signing a multi-year deal even, because, I mean, last year he pitched 152 and 2/3 innings. The year before that, 145 innings, just under 180 innings in 2021. So this has been, unfortunately, a pattern. Heck, the last time that he pitched 200 innings in a season was his age 33 year. That was back in 2018 with the Washington Nationals. Now, had 2020 been a full regular season with more than 60 games, I have no doubt that he would have pitched probably around at least 180 innings, if not, the full 200. But he is getting older, and even though he has been one of the most durable pitchers of his generation, I mean, heck, 30 starts every year from 2009 all the way to 2018, then 27 starts in 2019. He was incredibly durable, incredibly healthy for basically a decade. But eventually Father Time comes for everybody. And so far this season, with, the back injury that led into the kinetic chain disruption, to the nerve injury that was messing with his pinky and elbow and all kinds of different things, it just feels like I don't think we'll be seeing Max Scherzer on this team in 2025. I think he gets somewhere around maybe $15 million next year. And I would honestly be surprised if he gets to 10 starts next year or gets to, 50 innings. That would be a surprise for me with the pattern that he's maintained. I mean, he does a great job of keeping his body in shape. And it's frustrating because a big reason why the Rangers were okay with trading Luisangel Acuna for Max Scherzer and $36 million, I believe it was because the Rangers were getting him for 2 seasons, because they were theoretically getting him for 2 playoff runs. Now, unfortunately, they really only kind of half had him for a playoff run. And then this year, the Rangers were out of the playoffs, basically by the time Max Scherzer was coming back from his second time on the IL this season. But, a hat tip to one of the greatest ever, one of the greatest pitchers in the history of the game. I mean, he has been downright phenomenal. And he wore a Texas Rangers uniform. He did. It happened. Didn't happen as often as we would have liked. Wasn't quite peak Max Scherzer, really at almost any point during his Rangers tenure, but he pitched. And he pitched in the World Series that the Rangers won in a very, very close game. Heck, if Max Scherzer didn't have those 3 shutout innings against the Diamondbacks in Game 3, in a pivotal Game 3, the series was tied 1-1 at that point. And Max Scherzer, I'm sure, he's never wants to come out of a game, but I'm sure of all the starts that he's had, I think that was the one that he least wanted to come out for, dealing with that back injury that I don't think was the one that led into the stress fracture, whatever actual back injury it was that he had surgery on in the offseason following that. But I mean, Max Scherzer's accomplishments, even though they weren't, exactly what he would have wanted, what the Rangers would have wanted, what I'm sure fans would have wanted. And even though there's going to be a lot of people online who are like, oh, look at how much money Max Scherzer was paid to, make 2 starts for the Rangers. Who freaking cares? It's the same thing as DeGrom. They won a World Series. That was the goal. This franchise has never done that before. And every single player that was on that 2023 team at really any point made a contribution to the Rangers not only getting to the playoffs, but going through the playoffs and winning the whole dang thing. And for that, they will always have a special place in my heart, Max Scherzer included. I'm wishing him all the best at wherever he goes next year. If he wants to sign a $5 million deal in Texas, something way, way on the cheap, I don't see him doing that. I don't see his agent letting him do something like that. I don't really see a scenario where he does that. But from the off chance he does want to come back and, nobody else is giving him that shot, then I would be open to that kind of return. but it does lead to a little bit of a change in the Rangers rotation for this final week of the season. What exactly it's going to look like, I'm not entirely sure. Because Jack Leiter was piggybacking off of Jacob deGrom on the Friday start, he did not end up piggybacking off of Scherzer in the Saturday start like he did in Scherzer's first start since coming back at the IL. Dane Dunning was recalled from AAA and made his start and was not great. Honestly, kind of concerned about what Dane Dunning is going to look like next year. If he was a solid back end of the rotation starter, then I would feel much better about the depth of this team in their rotation next year. But I think that as for who's going to make the start on Saturday, I think there's three options. Dane Dunning is one option, maybe the most likely option. There's also the option of putting Andrew Heaney there, moving his start up one day in what would be, 6 days rest as opposed to a full week of rest. And then maybe the Rangers used Nathan Eovaldi for that final game of the season. And instead of Nate Eovaldi's last game being on Tuesday in the Coliseum, it will be game 162. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know exactly what they're going to look like. Or it could just be, instead of Jack Leiter piggybacking off of deGrom, they go with Dane Dunning piggybacking off of deGrom and give Jack the actual start in that Saturday game in Anaheim. That's what I would like to see. I would like to see Jack get another start because his most recent outing was a very Jack Leiter-y kind of start, even though it wasn't a start. It was a piggybacking, second start off of Jacob deGrom with 5 innings. Seeing him go 5 innings was encouraging. Seeing him get the 5 strikeouts was encouraging, but the 2 home runs accounting for 5 of these 6 earned runs that he gave up did end up giving up 7 runs total because the Rangers defense behind him was just absolutely terrible. And those 2 home runs coming, of course, to Julio Rodriguez, who has just terrorized the Rangers this year and been kind of mid against basically everybody else. I would like to see Jack Leiter get one more start there. It will be a low-stakes start. The season is already done. The Rangers' playoff hopes are already completely gone. It's fine. It doesn't matter if the Rangers lose 100-0 in that Saturday game. It really won't change much of anything outside of the psyche of all those players involved. So maybe losing a little bit less than 100-1 would be ideal, or just not losing at all. But just getting Jack Leiter one more start, I think, should be something that the Rangers are trying to prioritize, giving a guy who probably will factor in pretty heavily to the Rangers rotation next year. You've got Malley, you've got deGrom, you've got Rocker, and then outside of that, Cody Bradford is almost a surefire bet to be in the rotation to start this next season. If they bring back Eovaldi, that's another guy who is assuredly going to be in the rotation. And then that would leave Jack Leiter in question of, is he going to be a starter? Is he someone who you believe in as a capable major league starting pitcher as soon as next year? Because that's about when it needs to happen for him. The Rangers can't really afford to, let him sit in AAA another season and cook and develop. They're going to need him next year. They need young, competent, cheap, controllable starting pitching as soon as next year to kind of reset that tax cap and then, hopefully go back at it and contend in 2026, if not contending while being under the luxury tax in 2025. Who knows exactly what they'll do? We do know is that Max Scherzer's season is done, and unfortunately, probably so is his tenure as a member of the Texas Rangers. That's going to do it for today's show. Like I said, I'll hopefully be back tomorrow with Jason Burke, former Locked On A's host. Maybe it'll be a crossover with Sully, the current Locked On A's host, talking about this final series at the Coliseum of Major League Baseball. But that's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.